Hello respected viewers, I'm George from Ireland. Sorry for the sort of mistiness of this image. It's not at all misty here. Something wrong with the viewfinder. Anyway, here I am in Richmond upon Thames, London, and I'm outside the house of the late Ardasa Kosechi Wadia. Forgive me if I've mangled the pronunciation there, probably misaccentuated it. Anyway, he was a famous Indian engineer, and his native city of Mumbai owes much to him. This is a rather fine house. It's divided into a few flats these days. So he's famous for the engineering innovations that he introduced to Mumbai. So he was born into a well-known shipbuilding family, and the Wadias are still a very prominent business dynasty in India to this day. So he was working in the family business at the age of 14, so had no formal training in education in engineering. Such was the way in the 19th century. It was very much hands-on, just practical training, just doing it, rather than sitting down to lectures and learning mathematical formulas. They were doing a lot of trial and error, probably why there were quite a few accidents back then. But anyway, he had an innate gift for this sort of thing, and he was intrigued by steam engines, which are a relatively recent invention and were part of the transport revolution and started to revolutionize transportation in India. So putting those into ships. And he married young, a Parsi woman. Of course, Parsis are endogamous, and they were their union was blessed with progeny. So they had several children. And he started corresponding with people here in the United Kingdom. He learned fluent English, which is highly unusual in early 19th century India. He's working for the Honourable East India Company, and because up until that time, all East India Company officials, they learned Indian languages. But by the late 19th century, they'd reached critical mass, and they started to use English more and more. The language of administration was no longer Persian, it was English. So then he started corresponding with members of the Royal Society of London, i.e. the proper name is the Royal Society of London for the Promotion of Scientific Knowledge, something like that. And he was elected a non-resident member. The Marquess of Northampton, that here, he was a great enthusiast for all things scientific, and he was the one who proposed that Wadia be elected to it, and indeed he was, for his contributions to engineering. So this Mr. Wadia was the first person to bring in gas lighting into Mumbai, and people were very worried about it, thought it was going to cause fires, but he proved it could be done safely, and various improvements in shipping design. So his home city owes a lot to him. And then he moved to this country to further the family business. He took up with a lower middle class British woman from the London docks. He met her through the woman's brother, who was some clerk in a shipping company, and he had a few children with her. Now his wife in India was still alive. I don't know if she was aware of these arrangements. So he made an awful lot of money. He died here in 1877. So I don't know whether he's buried in Brookwood Cemetery or not. That's the only Parsi graveyard in Europe. Quite probably, I've been there before. Or were his remains shipped back to India to be exposed to the Tower of Silence as dictated by Parsi custom, I know not. So the Wadia family is still very well known in Indian business circles to this day. Some of his descendants through his mistress married some of his descendants through his wife, so marrying their distant cousins. So that is Mr. Wadia, who's honoured with a blue plaque here. There's a very prominent person here in Richmond upon Thames, London, UK, the only non-white person so honoured by such a plaque. In order to get one of these plaques, you have to be either born over 100 years ago or dead over 20 years ago. Well, he qualifies on both grounds. You can see that blue plaque there behind me. So he died in 1877 at a fairly ripe old age. That's enough from me. Toodaloo.